If you want to see how I turned this $30 marketplace find into this textured watercolor piece, stay tuned for the full tutorial. I knew that I wanted to use our undead hardware drops on this, which is a single hole, so I started out by drilling a new hole in the center of the drawers and then filling the existing hardware holes with a 2-part wood filler. This piece did have just a little bit of damage on it where the veneer over the particle board had stripped from the top, so I filled that with a wood filler as well and then sanded it down so it would close all of the pores and create a smooth finish. After that was done, I cleaned the entire piece really well and then primed the piece with the stain blocking primer. Then I took a neutral chalk mineral paint color as the base coat. We're going to be using a ton of water on this project, so we want to make sure that the base layer doesn't reconstitute. This particular color is Sandbar by Dixie Belle, but any chalk paint line will do as long as it doesn't reconstitute with water. You want to make sure that this coat is completely dry before moving on to the next steps, which is grabbing a clay-based paint. This specific one is the Terra Clay line by Dixie Belle Paint in the color Galaxy, which is a very, very deep, rich dark blue. I started out by misting the area with water first before applying the paint, and then blotting it on pretty heavy towards the top of the project. We are going to be adding lots of water to this and we want it to drip down, so a lot of the color is going to start at the top, make its way down, and then we're going to spend a lot of time going through adding more paint, adding more water, and just repeating the process until we get to a point where we like it. If you haven't used clay-based paints before, this is definitely needed on this style of project. Chalk mineral paints do bleed a little bit downwards if you try adding water to them, but not near as much as the clay paints. The best thing about having a chalk mineral paint is the base layer is, again, it won't reconstitute. So for whatever reason you're not liking where it's creating patterns with these drips, you can actually take a wet paper towel, wipe it off, get it down to that base layer again, and then keep trying until you get to where you like it. I personally like really asymmetrical looks on pieces, so I tried doing heavy blue on the left hand side where it goes much lighter on the right hand side, and then I did leave a lot of that exposed base color under the drips on the right hand side. The one thing about clay paints is they do take a lot longer to dry, so I waited overnight for the moisture to completely leave this piece, and then I started on my next portion here, which is taking a green color and then applying it with a spatula. Painting with a putty knife isn't overly complicated, but on a curved piece like this, it is kind of hard. But I did just go through and add this, it's Palmetto in the chalk mineral paint line, to the outer edges along the tops and the bottoms, keeping it out of the center of the piece. After that is completely dry, I took Colonial Mustard in the chalk mineral line from Dixie Belle, and I did start out with a dry brush for this. I just dabbed a little bit of paint on and tried adding it in the areas where there's more of the original base color showing through, and that the drips are very light and there's lighter blue in those areas. I don't want to create full coverage in these areas and cover up all of the texture underneath, so I am building this and just using a little bit at a time. I'm also going to take that yellow and dry brush it over the entire piece, so it does start to mute that green a little bit, and then add another layer over the entire surface over that blue color. Once I get that yellow section to where I think it needs to be, that's when I'll start adding a little bit of water and feathering out those harsh lines. That way it looks like it blends into the piece a little better. I don't want to completely eliminate all the texture we've created, so I don't overwork the areas. I just mist a little bit, lightly go over it, and then move on to the next section. You also don't want to use a ton of water in this step, just because that clay paint, that blue color, will reconstitute if you get it too wet, and it will overwork and then blend to create a green with that yellow. I know it's hard to see before in the other clips, but dry brushing that yellow over the piece really does create a difference. With this technique with adding the yellow, you do really want to go on as light as you can and then build up. That way, if for whatever reason you make a mistake, it's easier to work with. But because there's so many layers to this, if you add too much paint on this step, it is going to be hard to remove that and to keep the base layers intact. And then as you see again on this side, I am building it up as heavy as possible down in those areas where it looks like more of the base layer that we started with is showing. You do want to try to keep your brush as dry as possible, so between misting I am using a paper towel to blot off a lot of the moisture. And again, just placing this yellow really heavy in the areas where it shows all the way down to the base layer, adding that dry brush yellow over the entire surface, going back over those heavier areas with a little mist, feathering out those edges, and then letting the entire piece dry before moving on to the next steps. Once everything is fully dry, we're going to be taking an orange color. I'm using a clay paint on this step. However, you could probably get away with a chalk paint on this one. Clay paints, again, in my mind, they do blend a little bit easier just because they work so well with water. But to start, I am misting the areas, and then I'm adding a little bit of orange to the center of the yellow, not overlapping the edges completely. I want to keep it central, that way it gives the yellow a little bit of dimension. I am starting pretty light with this step, again building similar to what we did with the yellow, but I'm not building to the point that you can no longer see the drips and the other textures and colors underneath. And when working with the orange color, I am not adding it anywhere that there is not yellow already placed. One thing about clay paint that it's pretty significantly different than the chalk mineral paint is clay paint dries a very, very different color than what you originally started with, and then when you go to seal it, it changes colors again. Whereas chalk mineral paint, it can change very slightly, but once you seal it, it may richen the color ever so slightly, but for the most part, the color you get when it's dried is the color it's going to be when you seal it. Once the project was finally dry, I added a top coat to seal in the entire piece, and then added the hardware for the final look. The hardware on this piece is our exclusive brand of glass drop pulls. This color is called The Willow, and it comes in a 4-pack. It is a gorgeous amber color that creates the perfect contrast for this color scheme. I did use this technique on a project prior, which is what you guys wanted me to create a tutorial from. And on that piece, I did distress it, as you can see here, whereas the one that we just did together, I didn't. So if you like this look a little better, go ahead and distress the edges after you've applied your clear coat. This piece I did also use our Magic Potion hardware, which is a very, very vibrant blue color. But I think after using the Willow on the other piece, which is the amber color, I think that is my favorite. Thank you all so much for following along. If you like this video, please be sure to give me a like and a follow. If you're interested in any of the hardware, it can be found on our website, www.undeadfurnitureco.com. Thanks y'all, see you next time.